Shark calls the dust cup on this thing XL capacity. It isn't. And weirdly, that's the most useful thing I can tell you about this vacuum, because once you understand why that claim is a little off, everything else about it starts to make a lot more sense. Hey, welcome to Sweep Gear. We dig into vacuums so you don't have to guess whether the marketing on the box actually holds up in your living room. Today we're looking at the Shark Rotator Liftaway model NV501, and I want to walk you through what owning this thing is actually like, not just what the packaging promises. Here's the problem most people run into when shopping for a vacuum in this price range. You're choosing between 5 or 6 models that all sound identical on paper. HEPA filter, swivel steering, LED lights, detachable pod. It's a wall of buzzwords, and with the NV501 specifically, it gets even messier, because this exact model has been sold in different bundles over the years with different weights and different dust cup sizes listed depending on where you buy it. So before we even get to performance, that's worth knowing. Check the specific listing you're looking at before you compare it to anything else. Why does any of this actually matter to you? If you've got pets, allergies, or a house that just seems to collect dust no matter how often you clean, you're not shopping for a vacuum. You're shopping for relief. You want something that actually pulls the dust out of the air instead of just moving it around the room. And that's really where this vacuum earns its reputation. Owners with asthma and allergies report something pretty specific about this machine. Several mention they no longer need to wear a mask while vacuuming, which they did with older bagged models. That's not a small thing. The NV501 uses a 3-stage filtration system, a foam filter, a felt filter, and a true HEPA filter, all wrapped in a sealed housing so dust doesn't leak back out through the seams while you're cleaning. If you've ever finished vacuuming and immediately started sneezing, you already understand why that seal matters more than the suction number on the box. Speaking of suction, let's talk about how it actually performs, because this is where the surprises start stacking up. Across carpet, hardwood, and pet hair pickup, owners consistently describe this vacuum performing on par with machines that cost significantly more. That's not a one-off compliment, it's a pattern that shows up again and again over months and years of real use. One long-term owner put it simply: it's hard to clog, easy to empty, and it picks up long pet hair in a single pass, even after weeks of neglect. If you've got a shedding dog or a couple of cats, that's the kind of performance you feel on a Tuesday afternoon, not just read about in a spec sheet. Here's something I did not expect going into this one. This vacuum is quiet. Not silent, but quiet for a full-size upright. Independent measurements put it around 72 decibels with the brush off, climbing to about 79 with the brush engaged. For context, that's noticeably lower than at least one of its own sibling models in Shark's lineup. If you've got a baby who naps at inconvenient times, or you work from home and don't want to shout over your own vacuum, that's a real everyday difference. So we've got strong suction, real allergy relief, and a surprisingly quiet motor. Sounds like an easy recommendation, right? Not so fast, because this is also where I need to bring up the trade-offs, and there are a few real ones. Weight is the first. Most listings put this vacuum around 15.5 pounds, some closer to 16. Compare that to Shark's own Navigator Liftaway, which sits around 13.5 pounds, and you'll feel the difference the moment you're carrying the pod up a flight of stairs. It's not heavy in the sense of being hard to push around your living room. It's heavy in the sense that repeated stair trips or above-floor cleaning sessions will remind your arms this isn't a lightweight stick vacuum. And that ties into something else worth mentioning, honestly. When the canister sits on its base and you pull the hose at certain angles, some owners report the whole unit can tip. It's not a constant problem, but it's a real one, and it usually shows up when you're reaching for something a bit further away than the hose comfortably allows. The fix is simple. Once you know about it, reposition the base closer to where you're working instead of stretching the hose to its limit. Small habit, but it solves the issue almost entirely. If you're weighing whether this is the right vacuum for your home or comparing it against a couple of other options, you can check today's price and current customer reviews through the product link in the description below. Let's talk maintenance, because this is where a lot of buyers unknowingly shortchange their own vacuum's performance. The official guidance says to rinse the foam and felt filters every 3 months and the HEPA filter once a year. Based on how suction actually behaves over time, that interval is too generous. Dirty filters don't cause a sudden drop in suction. They cause a slow one, the kind you don't notice until you compare it to a freshly cleaned filter and realize, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like. My honest recommendation, rinse the foam and felt filters monthly, not quarterly. It takes about 2 minutes, and it keeps this vacuum performing the way it did on day one? What actually happens after a year or two of ownership? This is where the story gets genuinely interesting because the long-term picture is mixed and you deserve the full picture instead of just the highlight reel. Plenty of owners report this vacuum running strong for 5, 6, even 10 years with the motor still going strong. But a smaller number report the motor or brush roll giving out earlier, sometimes around the 2-year mark. The pattern that emerges isn't random. It tends to track with how consistently filters were cleaned and whether clogs were addressed quickly. That's not a guarantee, but it's a meaningful pattern worth knowing before you buy. One more point in this vacuum's favor. If something does eventually wear out, replacement parts are cheap and easy to find. Brush rolls, hoses, cords, filters, all generally available for under $50 from Shark directly or third-party sellers. That matters more than people think because it means this vacuum doesn't become disposable the moment one part fails. How does this stack up against the alternatives you're probably also considering? If weight is your biggest concern, the Shark Navigator Liftaway is lighter and cheaper, though it trades away one layer of that sealed filtration system using a single HEPA filter instead of the NV501's 3-stage setup. If warranty length matters more to you, Shark's Rotator-powered liftaway speed offers 7 years of coverage compared to the NV501's 5. And if you've been eyeing a cordless Shark model instead, know that you're trading raw suction power and dust capacity for cord-free convenience, not necessarily gaining better cleaning performance. Who should actually buy this vacuum then? If you've got pets, allergies, or a mix of carpet and hard flooring, and you don't mind a corded upright in exchange for strong, sealed filtration and dependable suction, this is a genuinely smart pick in its price range. If you specifically want the lightest possible vacuum or you're set on going cordless, you'll be happier looking elsewhere. And that's a completely valid reason to pass on this one. Is it worth the price? Based on what owners consistently report over months and years of real use, yes, for the right household. It's not the lightest option, and the marketing around dust cup capacity oversells things a little. But the core performance, the filtration, and the long-term repairability are hard to argue with at this price point. If you picked one up, or you're on the fence about it, drop a comment and let me know what you're using it for. Pets, allergies, or just everyday cleaning. I read every one. And if this helped you figure out whether it's the right fit, hit like and subscribe. We've got a lot more of these honest breakdowns coming.